As a psychologist, deeply immersed in the study of narcissism, I understand that you may be carrying silent wounds within you. The draining sensation of being depleted, manipulated by someone whose very existence seems to revolve around keeping you tethered to their orbit. Narcissists, at their deepest core, are beings who survive on the breath of your attention, whether it comes in the form of love, admiration, or even the anger you hurl their way. But what if I told you that this invisible thread, the narcissistic supply they crave, is the very key to dismantling their power over you? Why Walking Away delivers the most devastating blow to a narcissist's fragile ego isn't just a tale of retribution, it's the journey of uncovering the hidden strength within yourself. Stay with me as we unravel this secret. When you walk away, you don't just sever their lifeline, you shatter the mirror they use to mask the emptiness inside. Are you ready to grasp why a single step can topple an entire empire of arrogance? Let's dive deeper right now. Imagine holding an invisible hammer, and with one decisive strike, turning your back and walking away. You not only smash the narcissist's ostentatious ego, but obliterate the flimsy psychological foundation they've so carefully constructed. As a psychologist who has spent decades dissecting the minds of narcissists, I can assure you, this isn't just an emotional game. It's a battlefield of survival for them. Unlike you or me, narcissists possess no intrinsic worth. Their ego is a castle of sand built from the fragile grains of recognition, admiration, and sometimes fear they extract from those around them. When you walk away, you don't merely remove a single grain, you unleash a tidal wave, leaving them stranded amid the wreckage of the superiority they once believed invincible. Let's delve further into this mystery, because this isn't just about hurting them, it's about reclaiming your own power. Narcissists aren't the mighty figures they paint themselves to be. They're parasites, feeding off the narcissistic supply you unwittingly provide every time you argue, react, or try to fix them. But when you choose to walk away, you sever that lifeline. And what happens next? Your mask of arrogance begins to crack, exposing a painful truth. They are nothing without you as their mirror, reflecting their fabricated greatness. This is why your departure isn't just an act of defiance, it's a fatal strike to the very core of their existence. When you argue, explain, or defend yourself, you're unwittingly tossing logs onto the smoldering fire of the narcissist. You remain the fuel sustaining their bloated ego. Every word, every tear, every attempt to make them understand you becomes precious droplets. They siphon to perpetuate their illusion of superiority. But what happens when you suddenly fall silent, turn on your heel, and withdraw? You don't just extinguish that flame, you douse their entire survival system with icy water, shattering the cycle of dependence they've spun around you like a spider ensnaring its prey. Your departure isn't merely physical, it's a psychological devastation. As you step out of their orbit, the counterfeit ego they've meticulously crafted collapses like a building without a foundation. Behind that facade of pride lies a chaotic mess of shame, fear, and emptiness. The inner demons they've spent a lifetime fleeing. Without you to mirror their false grandeur, they're forced to face themselves, a hollow, baseless self that exists only through external validation. This is what terrifies them most. Not your anger, not your criticism, but your complete absence, which lays bare the stark reality that they're nothing without someone to manipulate. Yet, this isn't solely about their downfall, it's about your liberation. Each step you take away from them brings you closer to redefining yourself. Free from the invisible strings of their control. They want you to believe you need them, that your purpose is to serve them, but the truth is, you are the strength they can never generate on their own. When you withdraw, you don't just wound them, you reclaim ownership of your life. Consider this. Narcissists aren't powerful, they're masters of disguise. They're parasites, and you hold the power to cut off their sustenance. In the narcissist's inner world, nothing is more terrifying than unresponsive silence. The quieter you become, the more frantic they grow. They cannot endure the void, where your voice, reactions, explanations, and emotions once filled the space. For that void isn't just your absence, it's the presence of a truth they dread facing. They've lost their grip. Narcissists don't love as you might think. They love controlling you. When you stop reacting, stop arguing, stop needing to prove yourself, they lose the mirror sustaining their delusion of self. Without supply to fuel their proud mask, their empty ego is stripped bare. Their blame-shifting, guilt-tripping, or sudden sweetness isn't genuine remorse. It's a tactic to regain control. They'll offer honeyed words, promise change, even feign vulnerability to make you doubt yourself and return to their cycle. But mark this, a narcissist's kindness is never a gift. It's bait. They can't stand being invisible. They thrive by possessing others' minds. So when you walk away in quiet resolve, you don't just protect yourself, you dismantle their entire fraudulent psychological structure. Your indifference is something they can't twist. It forces them to confront the fact that they aren't special, aren't grand, and aren't needed for anyone to survive. That's more frightening to them than any reprimand. Rage they can manage, but apathy they cannot. And in that stillness, you reclaim yourself, breaking free from obsession and manipulation to rebuild your life from the roots, with self-respect, understanding, and freedom. Your choice to stop reacting isn't weakness, it's the pinnacle of awareness. It's psychological maturity. When you no longer need to be understood, no longer need to win an argument, but simply crave peace. Because in the end, what defeats a narcissist isn't fighting, it's the stillness of detachment, and that is the fatal blow they can never withstand. When you argue, explain, or defend yourself, you unwittingly become an energy factory for the narcissist. Each of your reactions is a battery that keeps their arrogant machinery running. As a psychologist who has spent decades studying these warped minds, I can assure you, they don't care whether you love or hate them, as long as you're still spinning in the emotional vortex they've created. But when you choose silence, when you walk away without leaving a single word behind, you don't just cut the power, you dismantle the entire assembly line they rely on to survive. Your silence is a razor-sharp blade, slicing through the veneer of arrogance they use to conceal their inner emptiness. And what happens when you withdraw? You leave them in a boundless void where their counterfeit ego begins to fracture, exposing the shame, fear, and gaping internal abyss they've spent a lifetime avoiding. This isn't just an act of departure, it's a quiet revolution, where you don't merely hurt them, but seize back control of your own life. Think about how a narcissist operates. They're like octopuses, wrapping their emotional tentacles around you, siphoning every drop of energy you unwittingly surrender. When you argue, you give them a chance to twist your words. When you cry or plead, you hand them the power they crave. But when you go silent and walk away, you retract it all, leaving them with nothing to cling to, nothing to manipulate. This is why leaving is the most powerful strike. It doesn't just wound their ego, it shatters the fragile psychological structure they've built. Unlike a healthy person, a narcissist has no intrinsic value. Their identity is a mirror, gleaming only when someone stands before it to reflect the greatness they've assigned themselves. When you step away from that role as their reflector, the mirror shatters, forcing them to confront the truth. They are nothing without your attention. But don't mistake this for just a story of their collapse. It's a tale of your rebirth. Every step you take away from the narcissist is a step toward rediscovering yourself, a version of you no longer defined by their manipulation or control. They want you to believe you're weak, that you need them to survive, but the reality is the opposite. You're the lifeline they depend on, and when you pull away, you don't just let them starve. You free yourself from invisible shackles. Your silence isn't surrender. It's a declaration of power, a statement that you're no longer prey in their game. And the best part, as you walk away, you don't just hurt them. You begin healing the wounds they've left in your soul. Picture the narcissist as an actor on a stage. They need an audience for their performance to matter. You're that audience. Every reaction you give is the applause they thirst for. But when you exit the theater, the stage lights dim and they're left in darkness, with no one to witness their show. This is their greatest fear. Not confrontation, not fury, but absolute indifference. Your indifference reveals a truth they've always tried to bury. They have no worth without others to affirm it. In that moment, you're not just a survivor, you're a victor, having broken the chains of dependence they built to trap you. Let's go further. Why does this matter to you? Because walking away isn't a one-off act. It's the start of a longer journey, rebuilding yourself. Escaping the narcissistic spiral gives you a chance to face the damage they've done, not to wallow in pain, but to transform it into strength. They may have convinced you that you're not enough, that you deserve poor treatment, but the truth is, you never needed their validation to feel your worth. Your value lies within, not in the gaze of someone who only loves themselves. Every day you live without them is proof that you're stronger than they ever imagined. Consider this. Narcissists aren't strong. They're weaklings masquerading as giants. They manipulate you not because they're superior, but because they're terrified of exposure, of abandonment, of facing their own emptiness. When you leave, you don't just hurt them, you strip off their mask, forcing them to look in the mirror without you as their shield. In doing so, you uncover a profound truth. You don't need them to exist, but they need you to live. This is the true power of silence. It doesn't just destroy them, it hands you back the reins of your life. If you want to dive deeper into how narcissists function, why they dread silence, and how you can not only break free but emerge stronger than ever, stick with me, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, or share your story. I'd love to hear about the times you walked away and how it transformed your life. We'll unpack how they set their traps, how they feed off your emotions, and most crucially, how you can turn leaving into a declaration of personal power. Don't stop here. Ask yourself, are you ready to cut off their lifeline and start living for you? This isn't just a lesson on narcissism, it's a call to rise. Walk away and rise from the ashes they left behind. Your journey starts now, and I'm here to walk it with you step by step. When you argue, explain, or defend yourself, you unwittingly turn yourself into a refueling station for the narcissist. Every word, every emotion you express is a precious drop of gas, keeping their crumbling machinery of arrogance alive. As a psychologist who has spent a lifetime dissecting these diseased minds, I can tell you, they don't care if you love or loathe them as long as you're caught in the web they've spun. But when you choose silence, when you decisively turn your back and walk away without so much as a glance, you don't just cut the fuel, you torch their entire survival system. Your departure must be a clean, unrelenting cut, no hesitation, no negotiation, no cracks for them to cling to. It's the blade that pierces their proud exterior, exposing the shame, fear, and cavernous void they've spent their lives evading. This isn't a gentle retreat, it's an uncompromising uprising, where you don't just topple them, but affirm that you're no longer their puppet. Picture the narcissist as a ravenous beast, always lurking to siphon every drop of energy from you. When you argue, you toss them a morsel. When you explain, you fling open the cage for them to charge in. But when you decisively walk away, no excuses, no goodbyes, you slam that door shut. You hurl the key into the abyss. Once you leave, it must be absolute, leaving no chance for them to crawl back, no crack for them to keep manipulating you through. Your decisiveness is what shatters their counterfeit ego because it gives them nothing to latch onto. No emotions to distort, no attention to fuel their delusions, no you to mirror their sham greatness. When you vanish completely, they're left in a frigid void, forced to face themselves, a being with no intrinsic worth, a hollow shell surviving only on the breath of others. And here's the crux. If you've decided to go, don't give them a sliver of opportunity to reel you back in. They'll try, trust me, they'll deploy every trick from crocodile tears to veiled threats, just to lure you back into their old cycle. But you must be resolute, unyielding. Once you cross that threshold, don't look back, don't reply to their messages, don't grant them a single second to think you're still theirs. Because every moment you waver, every time you let them wedge a foot in the door, you unwittingly hand them a rope to drag you back into their vortex. Your departure only holds power when it's a clean severing, no mess, no lingering ties, no bargaining. Only then do you truly demolish the psychological framework they depend on to survive. But remember, this isn't just about hurting them, it's about saving yourself. Every resolute step you take away brings you closer to freedom, to a version of yourself no longer defined by their control or manipulation. They want you to think you need them, that you can't live without them, but the truth is, they're the ones who need you to exist. When you leave for good, you don't just cut off their lifeline, you reclaim ownership of your life. Don't let them plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Don't let them sway you with empty promises or crocodile tears. They don't deserve another second of your time, and you don't need to prove anything to them. Your absolute silence, your total disappearance is the most powerful declaration. You're no longer a victim, you're a survivor. Imagine the narcissist as an addict, with you as the only drug keeping them lucid. When you argue or react, you give them a small dose to sustain their fix. But when you decisively withdraw, You don't just take away the dose, you destroy the entire supply. They'll panic, they'll scramble to pull you back, but you must recognize that this isn't their strength. It's their desperation. They're terrified of facing themselves, terrified of having no one to blame, no one to manipulate. Then that's when you triumph, not by beating them in a war of words, but by erasing them entirely from your life. Once you go completely. No escape routes, no scraps of hope for them to cling to. And on this journey, you don't just bring them down, you rebuild yourself. Every day you live without them is a day you prove you're stronger than they ever thought. They might have convinced you that you're weak, that you need their presence to feel whole, but the truth is, you've always been enough, and you don't need them to confirm it. When you walk away decisively, you start healing. Not to forget them, but to remember who you were before they entered your life. Make your departure a manifesto. You're not just escaping them, you're becoming the most powerful version of yourself. If you want to dive deeper into how narcissists operate, why decisiveness is the key, and how to turn leaving into lasting strength, keep following me, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, or share your story. I want to know how you've walked away for good and how it's transformed your life. We'll dissect how they set their traps, how they feed off you, and most importantly, how you can not only break free, but stand unshakable like a Don't hesitate. If you decided to go all the way, no looking back. This is your moment to take it all back, and I'm here to walk with you every step of the way.